Alright, in this video I'm going to show you guys how to replace the stator on a YFZ450. It's pretty simple. Just going to give you guys a quick rundown, and then I'll cut out all the stuff of me pulling it off, but I'll tell you what to do. So what you're going to want to do is, the end goal is to pop this side cover off, and the stator will sit back behind here on the flywheel. Pretty easy and simple. This is the wire for the stator. But what I'm going to do to make my life easier, you can do the same. I'm going to pull the seat off, which is easy. You just pop the seat right off. And then I'm going to pull this front plastic off. That way I can get to the plugs. So what you're going to want to do for that is obviously just pop the seat off. Pretty simple. This one does have some wiring things I'm going to go through and fix. It also has a horrible dirty filter that'll probably just get thrown away and replaced. I also have a battery for it that I'm going to put on. But once you get the seat off right there, typically you got two push pins that are right here. This one does not have that. I'm going to pull the gas cap off. Okay, gas cap is off. I want to use an Allen head to take this and that screw off. And then from there, on both sides, you're going to want to take this 10 mil bolt. It's usually right there. This one doesn't have it. Like I said, customer's bike, just doing it for him. But yeah, you'll pop bolt off here, bolt off on the other side, and then from there you should be good to go. Aside from right there, yep, you can't see it from the other side, but you'll have another bolt here and one on the other side. So you'll pop those off as well, and then the whole front clip should come off, and you should be able to get to the plugs for the stator. So I'm gonna hurry and do that real quick, and then I'll be right back. Okay, so once you get the front fairing off, the cover over the gas tank, and the seat off, what I had to do too is I ended up taking the headlights off. I left them plugged in, but I took them off because it was easier to get to the bolts holding the front fairing on, just because of the fact that the headlight was in the way, and I'm sure I could have gotten to it, but it was easier and quicker to just do it the way I did it and pop that off. But once you get that off, I chased the wire for the stator up to the front end of the bike, and it plugged into the two clips right there, these two guys. Unconnected those, disconnected them, and then ran it back out to where it's easy to get to. That way when I pull it off, the cover off, I can actually get to it. From there, what you're going to want to do is, you have a bunch of 8mm bolts that are holding on this case cover, I should say. You're going to want to go through and pull all of those off. I started with these two because I'm going to pull these out. And then behind there, I'm almost certain there's one other bolt that's holding it in. I could be wrong, but if I remember correctly, there's one other bolt. And a lot of people will go through and they'll drain their oil before this whole process, and it just makes it easier. You don't make as much of a mess. But in my situation, I'm just going to do it as is and then let it all just drain out, and then go through and make sure at the end I'll change the oil, make sure it's all clean and fresh with a new filter. But I'm not too worried about it right now, just for the purpose of this video. So yeah, you're going to want to go through, take off the 8mm bolts that are holding on the case. There's quite a few of them. And then from there, you should be able to pop the case off. You might have to push your shifter down just a hair just to get it out. And then from there, you can simply put in the new stator, a new gasket, and then you should be good to go. Okay, so as I had mentioned, you're going to want to take all the bolts out, which I have done. There's 9 total, but that does include the 2 that are sitting inside here for your starting gear. From there, you obviously pull all the bolts out so you don't lose any. And then what I like to do is, you can either use a screwdriver, like a rubber one like this, or even a mallet, and you simply just go through and tap around it just to kind of budget free, because you don't want to sit here and pry, because then you end up cracking or putting nicks in your case, and then it might not seal properly, and then you're going to have issues down the road. So yeah, I'm going to get this off real quick, and then we'll replace the stator. Alright, I went ahead and cleaned my cover off, put my new stator in, put the bracket that holds the wires in, and obviously the little magneto in there. Cleaned it all out. It looks pretty good. I wanted to make sure I got everything around where the gasket's going to sit. The last thing is, when it comes to putting parts like this on a motor, you're supposed to torque it and put it to spec. I do not. I've never had luck doing it. I've actually sheared bolts off inside of the case or on like anything internal with the motor. So I steer clear of doing that. But on to bigger and better things, you're going to want to go ahead and do exactly what I did here. Clean it all out, put the new parts on, and then essentially just go in reverse. The only thing you're going to add is at the end, you're going to want to go ahead and put oil in the machine. Like as you can see, mine is completely drained, which I'm going to have to go through and clean off the skid plate and all that fun stuff. But I'm going to go ahead and put all this back on the same way I took it off. And that'll be how you change the stator on a YFZ450. It's pretty simple. You can do it at home. It doesn't cost you much. I mean, pay for oil and the parts and just your time. That's all it comes down to. So one thing I had forgot to mention is when you're going to put the cover back on, and this is both the same for when you're putting your cases together or just the side covers, if you put all the bolts in, as you can see, because obviously it's hard to remember where they all went, but they're all going to poke out the same amount. If you get one that's poked out like right there and all the other ones are like this, but then you have one that's all the way in, you have them swapped. So like I said, you just want to make sure that they're all gapped the same, and then just go in like a star pattern and just do it until they're tight. Don't over tighten them, because I have broken them before. And then you'll just retrace the wires the same way that they came out, run them back up, plug them in, put everything back together, and then if your battery was dying on you and you kept replacing it and you didn't know what the problem was, well, hopefully this fixes it. Typically this is the problem. If a battery just keeps dying and it won't charge, it's most likely your stator, because your stator works as if it was an alternator but on a bike, right? So like an alternator for a car, it's going to run through and it's going to charge your battery as you're riding. So I hope you guys enjoyed the video. I'm going to get back to putting this thing back together, and can't wait to get you guys some more content just as I get machines. Not sure what it'll be, but it'll be content.